when the moon is in the seventh house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then evil will once again walk in the night and love will fill the stars. If you dare, welcome to the nightmare of the Grettu Orloff Show, ladies and gentlemen. Once again brought to you August 2nd, 2022. Can you believe that you lived to see August 2nd, 2022? Brought to you by Up Yours Water. Stick it to the man by drinking Up Yours Water, ladies and gentlemen. Well, once again, we meet. We were looking at Gold Key Comics in the last incredible installment. And let's continue with that. Gold Key, we had gotten up through Magnus Robot Fighter, I believe, or we were just about to start on it. Having trouble with my phone. Not much memory left on this phone, and I'm trying to get all of these damn photographs. I got like 60,000 photographs clogging up the phone, and I'm having trouble, once, I don't know, more information than you need, but anyway, don't know much about computers, man. Don't know much about technology, ladies and gentlemen. Or something like that. Yes, well, so let's see. Now, Gold Key Comics, of course. Oh, we need a little more light. All right. Gold Key Comics were wonderful. And they had painted covers. Here's Magnus Robot Fighter from November of 1963. Look at that gorgeous cover. Now, Magnus Robot Fighter was... a lot of these Gold Key comics, the covers are amazing and the interior art is a little bit lackluster, but that was not true with Magnus Robot Fighter. This is November of 64. In this comic, the interior art was just fantastic, done by the great Russ Manning. Now, I was taught by Graphic Man how to tell the month and year of a Gold Key comic. Usually you have to open it up and look on the inside, but he showed me that these four digits here, it says 411. So the 4 represents 1964 and the 11 represents November. So you say, well, it just says 4. How do I know if that's 1954, 1964, 1974, 1984? Well, you just have to know a little bit about comic book history. And comics were 12 cents from around 1962 through about 68. So basically, a 12-cent comic is 1960s. Before that, comics were always 10 cents. If it's 15 cents, it's 68 through about, or maybe early 72. Then, as the prices get higher, it's the 1970s, because there was a massive inflation during the 70s. Here is, so this one, I see it's 12 cents, and I see it says 6/11, so this is November of 1966. Yeah. Oh, wow. What? Yeah, no. Okay, this is May of 67. What a great cover. Some of these are out of order slightly. The Magnus Robot Fighter was brought back in the 90s by a company called Valiant. They bought the rights to some of these Gold Key heroes, and they brought them back, and I didn't think they were as good. I didn't had no interest in them. They brought back Magnus, Turok, and Dr. Solar. Maybe somebody else too. By popular demand, The Origin of Magnus collector's reprint, the very first story of Magnus Robot Fighter. This is May of '68. Now this whole thing, collector's reprint by the late '60s. People were aware that there were comic book collectors out there, and they were paying big dollars, you know, like $100 for the first appearance of Superman and everything. And so, you know, even if you just, you know, even articles like in Reader's Digest, so normal people knew that there were collectors out there. In Marvel and DC, you know, they would put collector's item on the cover, or trying to appeal to collectors. And then Gold Key realized, well, and also Charlton did that as well. This is August of '67. Look at that. This is very much like the light that's lighting the show right now. How about that? Magnus Robot Fighter, 4000 AD. Oh, I have two copies of the same issue. This one is in better shape. Magnus Robot Fighter, this is 1968, August. And of course, you realize when it says August, that means it really came out in June. Comics always were dated 2 months ahead, so that would give them 2 months on the stands before they appeared to be old. Here's November of '68. So if you want to get comic books from the month and year of your birth, like say I was born in April '65, I would need to get comics that were dated June of '65. Those were the actual comics that were on the stands when I was born. This beautiful cover is from February of '69. Here's November of '69. Okay, so this is February of 1975. It says 5. I know it's not 1965 because it's 25 cents. If it was 1965, it would have been 12 cents. So, you know, I see these big time collectors that spend thousands and have walls of graded comics, and this guy, he's a younger guy. Some Mint Hunter Comic Collectibles or something on YouTube. One of these guys that just goes looking for key issues, 9.8, so they can slab them. He was thinking that the Steve Ditko issues of Spider-Man were 15-cent comics. It's like, no. I mean, that's something I knew better than that. When I was 10 years old, I knew that comics were 12 cents. But then I'm older than he is, you know. So I can, I guess I can forgive him. I'm just jealous he has all these great comics that I could never afford, but he probably has a much better job than I have right now. Being retired. Let's see. I'm showing you what great art it lies within. Now, by this point in 1976, these were reprinted stories from the 60s. This is one of these ads for t-shirt designs you could get in the 70s. Okay, so that's my Magnus Robot Fighters. I wish I had more, but I don't. Here's The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was a gigantic hit in the 60s, mid-60s. This the characters Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin were the names. Ian Fleming came up with the names for the characters, so in that way it has a James Bond connection. But it was a James Bond kind of derivative TV show, but it was hugely popular, and that is, the fact that they were from the Uncle, which was an acronym, that inspired, of course, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and tons of other things. Here's the man from Uncle. Oh, I'm not telling you the months and years, are I? R.I. Yeah, no, but yeah. I can't even freaking read it. This is January of '66, and this is January of '68. Now this was a great comic, Total War. Here's the Mars Patrol racing. It's this future world, future war. So there they are at Niagara Falls fighting. Mars Patrol stands for Marine Attack Rescue Services. So they're fighting these mysterious invaders, Well, Nancy Pelosi is in. Speaking of Total War, Nancy Pelosi is in Taiwan right now, after being warned not to. It's very suspicious. Why the hell is she doing this? Provoking a catastrophe? It's almost like she's in league with the Chinese. And she's going to come out this hero. Look, they didn't do anything to me. I'm a strong woman. I'm totally qualified to be president. And then President Biden and his son, with his sons, both of their corruption, gets taken down, and the whole administration gets taken down, let's say, and Kamala Harris, who's taken down with him. And then who's in line? Nancy Pelosi, the hero that the Chinese, the CCP couldn't take down. She's a strong woman. It's almost like the Chinese want Nancy Pelosi in. It's very mysterious. That couldn't be. That's too much of a conspiracy theory. Okay, so here we are. Mars Patrol, Total War. Okay, that was 65. This is 66. So it went from Total War to being Mars Patrol. Now, see, they use the acronym Mars Patrol. It's very much like the man from Uncle. It's kind of... Yeah, what a great cover. There they are at the Lincoln Monument. Now back to Dell, because I have Gold Key and Dell comics mixed together. This is from September of 65, Melvin Monster. I really want to get a complete set of the Munsters. I want to get a complete set of Melvin Monster. I want to get a complete set of Mr. and Mrs. J, Evil Scientist. Any issues of Millie the Lovable Monster, Wacky Witch, all of the issues of the Little Monsters. So I need to chronicle and write down all of these things and what issues I need. And then, I could hint around at birthday, Christmas time to my wife, hey, here are the ones I need, and here's my comicshop.com and all that. Okay, there's 2 copies here of Melvin Monster from December of 65. I already showed all these comics yesterday. I did a whole episode yesterday that was quite amazing. I showed all these comics and all these witty quips in between, and I had trouble with the episode. It just... Anyway, the episode I'm redoing it, is the problem. That's the thing. Melvin Monster. Who left the screen door open? Yeah, more monsters. Okay. Yeah, his father's purple and he's green. So what color was the mother? The world may never know. Okay, Magnus Robot Fighter, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put those here. Okay. Magnus Melvin. Here's Merrill's Marauders from January of '63, TV show. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Merrill's Marauders. Sounds cool. Mighty Hercules. This was a cartoon from 1960. I grew up with it. J.P. Patches, the children's host in Tacoma, Seattle, Washington. He ran Mighty Hercules every morning. That may have been when I first became exposed to him. I don't think I ever saw Mighty Hercules before then, or did I? Maybe they ran Mighty Hercules on Armed Forces television when I was a little kid when we lived in Germany. I don't know, but you can see he's very derivative, very much looking like a 1950s Superman. But it's Greek mythology, ladies and gentlemen. Had a great theme song, too. Here's October 1963. All right, fantastic. Here's the Mighty Heroes from April of '67. If Ralph Bakshi actually designed these characters, that's really the greatest thing he ever did. Because if you think about it, most of the things he did in his career were other people's work. Wizards was, Vaughn Bodet's Cheech Wizard mixed with Lord of the Rings. And then he later did Lord of the Rings, which is obviously not. He did other people's stuff. Spider-Man, second season, same thing. But it's all right. Mighty Samson, August of '66. The little star stamp there on the M indicates that this was bought on an army or a military base. What would happen? This comic is not in good shape. At this point in Gold Key's history, they would reprint the painting on the back cover, which is great. Okay, they would stamp it when you bought it. On a military base, a lot of things cost less. Comics were cover price, but you didn't pay tax on anything when you're in the military. You don't pay tax. So they stamped it, and sometimes the stamp means that there's a Mark Jewelers insert inside, which some people like to collect those because they're a rare variant, and it was just a little ad inside the little insert right at the centerfold. Or they're trying to sell rings to military men for their sweethearts back in the United States. It's they're not that special to me because I grew up with a dad in the Army, so I have tons of comics with the Mark Jewelers insert. It's just, it never seemed to be a big deal to me. I just figured all the comics were printed that way. It gives them a little bit more stiffness. It's almost like there's a backing board inside the comic. Usually you can feel if a comic has a Mark Jewelers insert in it pretty quickly, just handling comics once you get experience with it. Mighty Samson is not the biblical character. This is in a post-apocalyptic world where he's fighting monsters, but there's recognizable stuff around that was destroyed from our time, wreckage of various things. Yeah, like here, high above Nayark, Samson battles a fantastic man creature whose strength matches his own. So in the background is New York, but in the future they forgot how to pronounce it. It's Nayark. Look at that, man. These paintings, I'm telling you, if I ought to just start. Well, there is no Kinko's or FedEx near me. If there was, I'd take some of these over and start making some big posters of the back cover art, frame them, create a very lowbrow art gallery. Okay, so I'm not telling you years. This one's August of '67. And by '67, see, they'd stopped doing the paintings on the back cover because they can make money with these ads. Yeah, you see the artwork inside, see, this has got to fold. Art is not as amazing as the covers, but it's all right. But they would print artwork from kids. You could create your own monster and get it printed in Gold Key Comics. That's a pretty damn cool thing. Here's Mighty Samson from June of '66 with a spine roll. Spine roll is caused by a kid, folding the comic back, saying it causes this. I could have sworn I already showed you this. Oh yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I have 2 copies of this, and actually, looks like here's the 3rd copy. Now, this didn't happen over years of collecting. What happened was I was at Duncanville Books in Duncanville, Texas, and which is near Dallas, suburb of Dallas, and they had multiple copies of a lot of Mighty Samsons. They must have come from the same person's collection, and they were $2 each, and I just scooped them all up. Because it might, look good on a spinner rack to have a whole bunch of the same comic there, and then it really makes it look more authentic. Here's June of '67. Men and Muscle battle gorilla mutants to end the treetop terror. Gorilla Mutants is a good name for a band, if it hasn't already been used. It's the Gold Key Comics Club. So they had their own little fan club. Yeah, this is again from '67. By that point, Marvel had its Merry Marvel Marching Society fan club. Yeah. All right, great. Oh, another copy of the same one. Uh-oh, I'm running low on battery power. I better plug you guys in. Here's the cable. It doesn't reach too far. I may have to create a different camera angle to plug you guys in. I dropped this phone in the sink this morning with the water running. Luckily, my wife has purchased for me a shell for this phone, a case, which provides moisture protection. All right, how about that? All right. Here's Mighty Samson from September of '66. Look at this great cover. This is definitely worthy of framing. Oh, there's Tom Morrow. Look at him with his big head. I'm telling you, this is a great comic. Anyway, fantastic. Wait, yeah, this is one of those where I have a bunch of copies of the same issue. What Drew is growling about. What are you growling about, Drew? Where the fuck are you? So anyway, a multiplicity of copies of this issue. Again, from September of '66. September of '66. September of '66 is about the time. Yeah, that's when the Marvel superheroes cartoons started on television. Because Batman came on in January of '66. So that gave just enough time from January to September for them to assemble these cartoons, and everybody was trying to cash in and get some kind of superhero product on the air. Okay. Where are we at? Of course, by June of '75, this is my childhood copy. It wasn't as cool looking, but it's still pretty cool. But, oh well. Millie the Lovable Monster. This is a childhood copy. This is a reprint, I believe. Bill Wagen, creator of Katie Keene. Millie goes house hunting, meets Goody the pink ghost, and does the twist. Yeah, it's definitely a reprint because the twist was an early '60s deal. How about that? Oh, shit. God damn. It's Mr. Ed the Talking Horse from November of '62. Got a lot of November comics, it seems like. But who knows, while we're looking at these comics, who knows what's going on in the real world. I mean, I could be looking at these comics and Nancy Pelosi may have already triggered something horrible over there. There's a student I had that was kind of a hoodlum, was always getting in trouble. Got suspended, I think, for 3 days from school for doing something horrible. While he was suspended, he had lots of fun staying at home, playing video games. And when he came back, he had no idea that September 11th, 2001 had happened while he was suspended. He didn't listen to the radio, the TV. Of course, he's not reading a newspaper, and he just video games in front of him continued playing. And I guess if he had a parent that occasionally emerged from a drunken stupor or came home from work, probably after he went to sleep, because they work different, Anyway, no one told him, and he didn't know till he came back to schools that had happened. So that can happen, I guess, if you live in your own little shell. You don't know what's happening in the world. Well, here's another thing. Another comic I want to get a complete set of, which I don't have. This one's in shitty shape. It's The Munsters #2. It's got it's in this nice plastic. This must be the type of plastic that Captain Strangelove talks about, where he cuts the edges and it goes in. This is what they put comics in at Duncanville Books, but it was $15, but I got it for half that. But it's got a real bad fold, which if you had one of those heat presses that everybody seems to have, you could fix. But that was, by the way, from April of '65. The TV show started in '64, so this is July of '65. Yeah, these the Munsters ran from '64 to '66, and here's from October of '65. This is issue number 4. This is April of '67. And here's number 14, which number 14 from August of '67, you can see looks familiar because it's a reprint of issue 2 from April '65. So 2 years later, they just reprint the same issue with basically the same cover. I suppose the thought was that kids aren't reading these comics for more than 2 years. They probably moved on to something else, either Warren magazines or something. Mutiny on the Bounty. That's why, like, speaking of Warren, Famous Monsters would reprint the same stories over and over again. You'd order a back issue, from Warren, and then you'd say, well, I've already read all these. Not that there was much to read, Forrest Ackerman's writing style, I'll tell you, but the pictures are great. But you'd find that 90%, if not the whole issue, was reprinted from some issue in the 70s from something in the 60s, because they figured kids weren't reading these monster comics as, they would grow up and go on to Playboy or something. But not me. I kept reading the monster comics. This is Marlon Brando, and this is about 9 years before The Godfather. Mutiny on the Bounty. Nutro. I think there's a dog food called Nutro. That reminds me I need to get more dog food for Drew. The most astounding superhero of all. This cover makes you think this is just amazing. Nutro does not know the difference between right and wrong. He's like Biden. How about that? Here's that was from January of '67. Here's New Terry Tunes from August of '71, because it says 108, and I know that's not 1961 because it's 15 cents. So it's very easy once you become enlightened and open your third eye. Here's a Mark Jewelers ad, which I assume was printed in all of the comics. I don't think this is a special edition just for military people. Yes, darling, I ordered you a ring from Heckle and Jekyll Comics. Will you be my bride? You can get these big-eyed kid paintings, prints of the paintings. All right, here's June of '74, when comics were 20 cents. Yeah, it's funny because, look, he's a mailman and there's someone sleeping inside the mailbox. That's funny. This is funny because he's playing table tennis with a team. Funny. So funny, I forgot to laugh. These are wonderful comics. It's just oftentimes the jokes on the cover, just, his boot kicked off. Wow. But boy, look at these cool toys in the back. I never really paid attention to the joke on the cover until now. I look at it and think, okay, I guess that's supposed to be funny. I honestly never really paid attention to it. What's going on inside this comic? General goofiness. Well, it was the Donald Trump rally Friday night. That should be great. Oh, look, Hashimoto-san in Lots of Rock. Look at that. He's listening on his stereo console. And what does that say there? The girl singer. Tiki Talkie. Her name is Tiki Talkie. There's a lot of good music out of Japan, but look up a girl band called the 5678s. I've been into that band since the 80s, and they play a wonderful mixture of garage rock and rockabilly. At some point, years later, Quentin Tarantino discovered the band and put them in his movie Kill Bill. So now they're the band from Kill Bill, but no, they're the band that Gratu's always been into. Old Quentin Tarantino always discovers things about 15 years after I discover them, and then puts them in his movies, and then everyone credits him instead of me. I don't know why they don't credit me. October '69, The Outer Limits was long off the air, but it was a great show. There's something that you can do to enhance your reading of comic books. November of '67, because if you listen, when you're reading comics, this represents a time period in American culture and American history, and it didn't exist in a bubble. In 1967, maybe you could play Sergeant Pepper while you're reading this Outer Limits comic. But if you really want to immerse yourself in a time period, I'll tell you what to do here in a minute. Let me finish this box real quick. This is from September of 1970. Close Shaves of Pauline Perrell. Kind of a play on the perils of Pauline, which is a silent movie serial, but this looks like it's based on a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but it isn't. It just has that, it just looks like it is. It really does have that look. But it says down here, 1970 Western Publishing. So this was a character created by Western Publishing, also known as Gold Key. Here's The Phantom 22. It's this is from King, but I put it in here anyway. Why? Because then The Phantom becomes a Gold Key comic at some point thereafter. So just trying to keep my Phantoms together. Pink Panther and the Inspector. Now, I remember this being a childhood copy, but I don't know why there's little stains on it, because that is not something I would have done unless someone, older brother or something, did that to the comic. But this is also a childhood copy. Yeah, there's pink paint dripping out his nose. That's side-splittingly funny. Okay, Dell. Trashed, but cool-looking cover. Now, he's fixing a satellite, or putting a satellite in orbit, powered by spinach. Not particularly funny, but it's cool as hell. So, that one is pretty great. Alright. Here's a Popeye from the 35-cent era, which would be 70s. Now, this was meant for schools. You'd have these career classes when you're in like junior high school, like 7th grade or 8th grade. You know, they would teach you about possible careers you could have someday, and they would have a set of these comic books for the class to read so they could investigate possible future careers. So that's what these are. if you ever stumble upon them. They were originally meant just for classrooms. These weren't sold on newsstands. That's why there's no price on them. The teacher would get a set maybe of about 30 of them. Here's communications and media careers. Hospitality and recreation careers. Here's environmental careers. How about that? Well, that's the end of that box. Let's get all the books back in. Pink Panther. It's hot out here on the porch. It's that global warming or climate change or whatever they're calling it this week. That damn Vladimir Putin just keeps causing problems for us. All right, so this Gold Key Comics box 2. All right, let's go in the other room. Let me take this box in there and get the next box. And meanwhile, I'll show you something cool you can do. Because like I said, comics don't exist in a bubble. And so if you're reading the Galactus trilogy and listening to hip-hop music, then you're doing it wrong. Because that's not the music that you should be listening to. If you want to recreate what it was like to be a 10, 11-year-old kid in 1965, you need to be listening to 1965 music. Put on a Beach Boys or Beatles record, not a CD, but an actual record, and you can possibly recreate that feeling. But let me show you something here. That you can do.
I'm going to put $1 in there.
We're talking about things that Quentin Tarantino discovered. And one thing he discovered and used in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and some people are saying, why did they just show Brad Pitt driving around all the time? That's so boring. And actually, that was the best part. I mean, driving around, he recreated what it looked like in Hollywood in 1969, and on the radio, as he drove around, you're hearing actual 1969 radio broadcast. And so, to me, that's amazing. Does it really advance the plot? Not necessarily. It's just giving you this wonderful atmosphere. But some people don't appreciate that because they just don't get it. Why do radio broadcasts exist from 1969 of DJs talking up the records and commercials for movies? And why do these broadcasts exist? Well, to one reason, primary reason, is that DJs, let's say you were a DJ in a little small town in Iowa, and you wanted to get a job for a big radio station in Chicago or St. Louis or something, then you would record yourself on the air, and then you'd send a recording to your potential employers so they could hear what you sound like on the air, and you would maybe record an hour or two of your radio broadcast. Sometimes DJs would record themselves, and they'd record the broadcast completely, including all the music. They called that an unscoped radio air check. But if you're gonna the people that want to hire you, they know what the songs sound like. What they want to hear is how do you talk up the record, and DJs would talk over the first few seconds of the record and introduce it, and then they want to hear how you come out of the record and how do you go into the next song or into the commercial or the jingle identifying the radio station. So sometimes the DJs would cut out the music. You'd hear the first little bit of the song, them talking it up, then they would cut, and then you hear them coming out of the song. That's called scoped. Those are called scoped air checks. But if you have a 1966 Mustang and you want to drive around town and feel like you're in 1966, you get unscoped air checks where you hear the music, you hear the DJs, you hear all the commercials for the Beatles coming to whatever your town, and what movies are playing, and it's in the news broadcast, and you can get a lot of air checks. I was collecting these like a fiend in the 90s, yes, and then when the internet first came along, I was just downloading tons of air checks. There's a website called realradio.com where you can get tons of them. Just type in vintage radio air checks into the internet. But YouTube's a good source for them. So if you just go searching and you just type in, say, let's see, vintage, I'm going to type in vintage, I'm going to type in vintage radio air checks. Let's see what I get. Now, if you want to get a particular month, let's say because you want to read a comic book because you're insane like me and you've got let's say an April 1965 comic book, and you want to hear what radio sounded like in April of 65 while you read that April 65 comic book on the porch of your house like a kid would have then you can type in April 1965 radio air check. But and you'll get the old jingles and everything. It just the this is one of those things that I really love. And I'm on my wife's account, so she's never typed this in before, but I have on my account. But anyway, vintage radio air checks. And this guy's got radio air checks 1950s to 1970s. It's got a playlist of 627 videos. There's all these tons of them. Classic. Okay, so let's try him. Let's see what he's got. 1947, there's one from 59. That's a Fort Worth radio station. New Orleans. Here's 1967 from Houston. It's only 15 minutes long. Sometimes you get much longer ones. Really great is to get the real Don Steele out of Los Angeles. That you heard a lot of that in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And they've got 2-hour long air checks of that just sounds like you're there. That's what they were using when Brad Pitt was driving around. Okay, you gotta sit through these stupid commercials that YouTube wants you to see. This is the
Johnny Rabbit Show time, baby. 18 minutes after 7 p.m. right now. KXOK, temperature 84 degrees. Congratulations to Marty. The putt is from Lansdowne, Jane Verbal, wins from Rock
From summer of 68 in St. Louis.
From Hazelwood. Hey, are you ready? What are we going to give away passes to? The Swooper? All right, out there, Bunker Amusement Park.
I was going to show you.
75965.
I showed it yesterday. There's Drew.
No, Drew wasn't here yet.
I showed it yesterday, but then I put it away, so I got to dig it up. Oh, see, this is scoped. So he went into the song "The Snake" and came out of it. The Snake was remember Donald Trump used to read the lyrics to that song, "The Snake." about the snake that tricks the woman. Okay, let's come up to the comic book room for a second. What I wanted to show you is, look, there's a big little book of Grimm's ghost stories. And, you know, I always make a joke that that's Nancy Pelosi. That joke's getting a little old, although it is a dead ringer for her. But anyway, it's the only Gold Key comic that I can think of that... Shit, don't lick those, man. Don't fucking... Drew is starving. Didn't I just feed her? Oh, look at this. The life of John Wesley Hardin, as written by himself. This is the man that was so mean he once shot a man just for snoring. This was found among his effects when he passed away, and they published it. A little publisher in Seguin, Texas, published it. That's where my grandfather was from. Anyway, I found that book while I was unpacking. I haven't read that book yet. That looks like a great read. John Wesley Hardin. It's a beautiful day here in Kentucky. Yeah, I've got the Christmas tree up. Oh, tomorrow you need to tune in for the Graphic Man television broadcast. I'm sorry, radio broadcast. I'm sorry, YouTube live feed.
And the horse breaking
Okay.
on all fours.
Caesar.
No, she couldn't get up. And no matter what they did,
Porterhouse
no matter
flavor.
What, they just couldn't get the horse on all fours.
All right.
Yes, that's
So
right.
we need to look at... All right, so we're looking at box 3 of Gold Key.
Happenings on KXOK.
So, listening to vintage radio air checks, that's my advice to you, to enhance your comic book reading. But it's all up to you whether you want to be cool or if you want to be a fool. All right, Gold Key Comics box 3. These are jammed together a little bit. I need to take some out. All right, so we're... Shit. I just plugged you in, you fucker. Here's another Popeye, public service careers. How about that? Popeye and transportation careers. And away we go. Arf, arf. Another one of communications and media careers. Fine arts and humanities careers. You can become a fine artist like Hunter Biden. See, olive oil is becoming a chorus girl. Important career opportunity. You want to teach your daughters that someday they could become a chorus girl too. Being sarcastic. Here's another communications and media careers comic. When were these made is what you're asking. Oh wow, it's a double cover, man. It's a rare collectible. Sometimes that happens. It's exciting, isn't it? maybe the first time that's ever happened here on the Gratu Orloff television show. Here is Popeye building the World Trade Center. And this is not old, this is new. It's from Craig Yo. It reprints the actual real Popeye cartoons, comic strips. Porky Pig. Oh, see, look, those are the ice cream scoops that were in the cone going down his throat. That's funny, man. Okay, now we're getting into cool stuff. Ripley's Believe It or Not, True Ghost Stories from June of '65. Weird, eerie, authentic. The Mummy's Hand, The Flaming Scar, The Message from Beyond. Now, this is one of the greatest covers in the history of comics from April of '67. Only comic, I think, in history of comics that has not just a drawing but a photograph of a shrunken head on the cover. Just amazing. That definitely needs to be turned into a poster. Perhaps it would be wonderful to hang here in the Gratu Orloff Tiki Bar, which is a work in progress. We don't even have any tiki plants in here yet. But someday, this will be a wonderful tiki bar and possibly comic store. And I still don't know. I'm thinking of opening a store, but it might be in the garage. But Ripley's Believe It or Not, True Demons and Monsters. Now, the original comic strip of Ripley's Believe It or Not, which wasn't a comic strip, it was just a single panel in the comic pages. Everything in there was supposed to have been proven to be true, you know, but the comic book, of course, is a very different entity. This is my childhood copy of this, I'll have you know. So it's from October of 1973, and I guess this is how I treated my comics at that point. That would be the beginning of third grade. Frankenstein mask. Always point out sightings of Frankenstein. Yes, these incredible true stories, ladies and gentlemen. Here's July of '76. That's right when we moved back to Texas, to Arlington, Texas. And I lived there from the summer of '76, except for 1 year when I moved away to Longview, Texas. I lived in Arlington, Texas, which I call Gratuville on here, until just, in April when we moved up here. And we sold the house. These people gutted the house, turned it into, got rid of all the mid-century stuff that might be offensive to modern people today that don't like that wood paneling. And anyway, now they're selling it for pretty close to $500,000, which is not what we sold it for. But so let them have fun, man. I'm glad to be away from the drunken people walking down the street and weird homeless people stumbling around and scary things happening in the apartment complex that the house backed up to. That's now part of my past. Now I'm here in this tiny town of 1,500 people. Haven't really met any friends yet. Today I went to get my oil changed, and they said it would take an hour, so I strolled around in the local cemetery and saw all the names of local people that run the barbecue place and the car dealership where I was having my oil changed. All the names I recognized and all the history, a wonderful history of this town. It's something else. There's President Biden. An urgent confession from a soul in torment. This is from April of 75, when I was turning 10. Look at this. Caution, Budweiser powered. Well, why were they selling that patch to kids reading this comic book? The world may never know. My goodness. Here's another Ripley's Believe It or Not from February of 76. February 76, we're still living in Tacoma, Washington. I couldn't remember the name of the Army base. It was Fort Lewis yesterday, 2 days ago. I don't know why I couldn't remember it. Just one of those moments of senility. You say, Gratu, you shouldn't make fun of Biden. You're getting senile and feeble-minded too. Yeah, and I would never make fun of someone that's demented. But in his case, he's been corrupt since day one. He's been evil. He's a sellout. He's been bought and paid for by foreign powers. And he's always been stupid. So I don't really see that much of a difference with him now and the way he acted in the 70s. He was stupid then, he's stupid now. It's hard to tell the difference between age and just general. He's always been stupid. Here's my childhood copy of, and corrupt. Here's my childhood copy of Scooby-Doo. It's a Whitman variant, so I can't really get a read on. It's probably from about 71, 72. I'm guessing we're still living in Germany at the time this came out. I was telling my wife that all the characters in Scooby-Doo are based on characters from the Dobie Gillis show, but she'd never seen Dobie Gillis. And she was born in 1978, so I guess it'd be okay. I mean, Dobie Gillis really was never run in syndication when I was a kid. They ran Gilligan's Island, but not Dobie Gillis. I think because Dobie Gillis was black and white, and unless the show was really spectacular, like Leave It to Beaver, The Munsters, most of these independent stations in the 70s and 80s would rather run reruns of color TV shows. This is from August of 73. Now, this is 73. It says 3/12. Now, that means December of 73. Whenever it's a December issue, a lot of times you get this at the top, extra fun, 16-page fun catalog. And that means that there's 16 pages of toy ads in the middle for Kenner Toys, because a December issue is going to go on the spinner rack or on the newsstand in October. And that gives kids 2 months to beg their parents for the toys here so that Santa Claus can bring them. So that's the story there. Secret Agent. It was called Danger Man in the United Kingdom, or also known as England, or the UK. Now, it's kind of complicated. It was called Danger Man. In the United States, it was called Secret Agent when they brought it over, and they had Johnny Rivers do this great theme song, Secret Agent Man. But the guy that wrote that, was his name P.F. Sloan or something like that? Anyway, the guy that wrote the Secret Agent Man theme was not Johnny Rivers. He just sang it, but the guy that wrote it did a demo version where he didn't sing Secret Agent Man. He would say, "Look out, danger, man! Think fast, danger, man!" You know, like that. And anyways, um, and it's like, and it's cool. It's just, you got to listen to the version, the original version. I'm sure it's on YouTube, but the guy that sings it pronounces face feast, and he's because he sings, "Beware of pretty faces that you find. A pretty feast can hide an even." It's like he's singing about feces, man. You gotta listen to it. He says, "A pretty feast can hide an evil mind." Anyway, oh, the other thing is, there's a show called The Prisoner that unofficially is a sequel to this, because he's a secret agent in this. At the beginning of The Prisoner, the guy it's the same actor. He's playing a secret agent that angrily is turning in his resignation. And it's like, he's ranting and raving in the opening credits, and then they come and scoop him up in the night, send some gas in, and they take him away, and he winds up on this island where, he's a prisoner, political prisoner, and they're trying to get information from him, and everyone's got a number, and and that's part of the lyrics of Secret Agent Man. It's giving you a number and taking away your name. Anyway, it's a great show, The Prisoner. In that show, everyone greets each other, and when they're instead of saying goodbye, they say, "Be seeing you." They do this, and I used to do that at the end of all my episodes. Of course, I don't even know when my episodes are ending now, because I don't know how much memory is on my phone. So I can't really do that anymore. But then I realized that's a fucking satanic symbol. I shouldn't have been doing that. That's the fucking Illuminati thing. Then you start seeing all of these Hollywood stars and singers. They all these are like this, or like this, or they have hair covering one eye, or it's like, or they're doing this, and it's all this Illuminati satanic bullshit. And of course, that's what they were trying to show in The Prisoner, and I was just naively doing it, and I was probably looking like I'm some satanic piece of shit. Snagglepuss from October of '62. How about that? Let's see what humor. He shot the mirror. I don't know exactly how that happened. Oh, I guess he shot through the mirror. What an idiot. What a fool. Okay, now we move to another thing that requires some explanation. There was a comic book. This is from March of '63. March of '63. Kennedy was still the president when this came out. It's called Space Family Robinson. Now, and it says, "Lost in space, the Robinsons struggle to survive the hazards of the universe. Perhaps this is the issue that Irwin Allen picked up and thought this would be a great idea for a TV show. I'm not exactly sure what they did. Did they pay off Gold Key? I'm sure there's been articles in one of those magazines from Tomorrow's that I can never find, because no comic book stores ever around where I've been carry them, so I get them when I can. I really ought to subscribe to them. But anyway, it's about a family lost in space. There's a boy and girl. There's a mother, father. I think there's a pilot that might be an equivalent of Major West. I could be wrong. There's the parents. Look, the dad looks like John F. Kennedy.